Good morning, everyone. Just doing a sound check.
Thank you. We can hear you loud and clear.
That one. Try that. There we go. Commissioners, I'd like to call the inaugural TTC meeting of 22 to 2026 term to order. The clerk has confirmed that quorum is present. And could ask you to now read the land acknowledgement.
We acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabeg, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit.
Thank you. Commissioners, do any of you wish to declare a conflict of interest in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? No? What's that? Seeing none, we will move on. Commissioners, I would like to remind you that this is an open meeting. As we go through the agenda today, those of you participating remotely will be required to submit requests to ask questions and to speak on items to the clerk. Each member has 5 minutes for questions and to speak, and the timelines will be adhered to. If you wish to submit a motion on an item, please email your motion to the email address that you have been provided with. You have all been provided with appropriate contact information for technical troubleshooting, and staff have also have each of your phone numbers should they need to contact you for technical reasons. Before we move on to today's business, I would like to facilitate brief introductions around the board table. I will start. First of all, I'd like to thank Chris Ann for all the notes. And I did ask her, I said, whatever you do, don't say, when I introduce myself, insert name here, because I'd probably read that. So I am John Burnside. I am the TTC chair. I've been bestowed this honor, and it is an honor, so thank you. I'm councillor for Ward 16, which is Don Valley East. I was here previously in 2014 to 2018 as the councillor for Don Valley West. And we can talk about that later, but it seems like I can't hold the job. So I will actually go around the room. Chrisanne, could you facilitate that, please?
Thank you, Chair. We'll move on to our virtual participants, beginning with Commissioner Mantis.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Chair. I'm Nick Mantis, councillor for Ward 22 in Scarborough Agincourt, and this is my second term.
Thank you, Commissioner. Moving on to Commissioner De Laurentiis.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Joanne De Laurentiis. I'm a citizen member, and I'm delighted to be back on the board. It's been my pleasure to serve for, I think, 6 or 7 years. I can't count, so don't put me on the committee involving finance. But delighted to be back, and congratulations to all the new councillors. Looking forward to meeting you in person.
Thank you, Commissioner. And beginning from my right with, at the end, with Commissioner Osborne.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Julie Osborne. I am a citizen member of the TTC board and have been so for 3 years.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Moyes.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Councillor Chris Moyes. My ward is Toronto Centre, Ward 13. And for the record, I was actually here at 9 a.m. this morning. Even though I walked in here late now. I'm happy to be here and look forward to contributing over the next 4 years on this board. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Holliday.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Stephen Holliday. I am the councillor for Ward 2 Etobicoke Centre. I'm quite proud and energized to be supported by council to join you on this commission. And I really appreciate the importance of the work that everybody does here to keep the city moving. And I can't wait to be a part of that over the next little while.
Thank you, Commissioner. And finally, Commissioner Jagdeo.
Guess they saved the best for last. Good morning, folks. My name is Fenton Jaggio. I am a citizen commissioner. I have been on the board for 2 years, actually, which is an exciting opportunity to contribute to future-proofing our transit agency from sustainability to technology and how we think about the future of transit. So I'm looking forward to another amazing term working with everybody here, and let's get some work done.
Thank you, everybody. Okay, we will now move on to item 1, being the election of the vice chair. Madam Clerk, please begin the election process.
Thank you, Chair. We will now deal with nominations for vice chair of the Toronto Transit Commission. Commissioners, in accordance with Section 19 of the Procedures Bylaw, commissioners may nominate only citizen members for the position of vice chair. Citizen members may nominate themselves. All nominations must be regularly moved and include the consent of the nominee. Nominations do not require a seconder. I will now call for nominations for the position of Vice Chair of the Toronto Transit Commissioner.
Madam Chair, I would like to nominate Commissioner Joanne De Laurentiis as Vice Chair of the TTC Board.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner De Laurentiis, do you consent to the nomination?
I'm delighted to accept. Thank you for the privilege, the opportunity.
Thank you, Commissioner De Laurentiis. Do we have any other nominations? Seeing none, with no further nominations, I would like to call a vote on Chair Burnside's nomination of Commissioner De Laurentiis as Vice Chair of the TTC Board. All those in favor of the nomination, by show of hands. Thank you. On a majority of vote, I am pleased to announce that Commissioner De Laurentiis has been elected as the Vice Chair of the Toronto Transit Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Vice Chair De Laurentiis, I'd like to welcome you back as Vice Chair, and of course, I look forward to working with you, as I'm sure the rest of the board does. I would like to now commence with the review of the order paper. So item number 2 is the Chief Executive Officer's Report for December of 2022. I will hold this item for a presentation from our CEO, Rick Leary. Item number 3, 40, 45, and 50 years long service acknowledgement for 2022. I will hold this item for a presentation. Item 4, approved minutes of the Advisory Committee on Accessible Transit, ACAT, general monthly meetings for June 30th, July 28th, August 25th, September 29th, and October 27th, 2022. I will hold this item for a presentation. Item number 5, presentation to retiring members and appointment of new members to the Advisory Committee on Accessible Transit. I will hold this item for a presentation. Appointments to TTC committees. We have a speaker on this item, so I will hold that as well. And then item number 7, 2023 schedule of meetings. Would any member like to hold this item? We're all good
Sure,
then?
I'll hold, just to make sure we take a look at it.
Okay. Item number 8, delegation of authority exercised during the election process. Would any member like to hold this? Can I get a motion to receive the report? Councillor Holliday, seconder. Councillor Moyes, thanks. All those in favor? And that carries, thank you. Number 9, proxy to vote TTC chairs in Toronto Coach Terminal, Inc. Would anyone like to hold this? Seeing none. Can we have the motion to adopt the board recommendation? Councillor Moy, seconded by Councillor Holliday. All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. That concludes the review of the order paper. Next item of business is item number 2, CEO Leary's report. And with that, I'd like to ask Rick to speak.
All right, thank you very much, Chair Burnside, and welcome. You know, it's great to welcome all the new council appointees and welcome back the citizen commissioners to this board. Now, before I begin with my remarks, I'd like to introduce the TTC executive, if I may, and remind the board that we're always there for you if you need us. I'll start from my right. If you would, just raise your hand as I announce your name. We have Gary Downey, the Chief Capital Officer. Thank you, Gary. Fort Monaco, the Chief of Operations and Infrastructure Officer. Rich Wong, our Chief Transportation and Vehicle Officer. We have Betty Surgeon, the Chief of Safety, and the Chief of Staff, Joan Taylor. And if I could come on to this side, I'll start with Scott Haskell on the right. He's the Acting Chief of Strategy and Customer Officer. And then we have Keisha Campbell, who's the Chief of Diversity and Culture Officer. Natalie Poole-Moffitt, our Chief of Corporate Affairs. Mike Atlas, our General Counsel, and Josie Levita, our Chief Financial Officer. Thank you for raising your hands. Now, if I could, I'd like to take a few minutes and briefly highlight some of the TTC's accomplishments and tell you about the work that we have underway and a look ahead to the challenges and opportunities that we see on the horizon. As you may know, I joined the TTC about 8.5 years ago and have been the CEO for the past 5. When I arrived, I saw an organization that was undergoing a transformation to become more modern. Building on the work of both of my predecessors, Gary Webster and Andy Byford, I committed to making the TTC a transit agency that would focus on operational and customer service excellence, as well as more long-term planning. I wanted to use new approaches to collect data collection and analysis, metrics, and performance measurement to enhance the customer experience. And we did this all while keeping diversity and inclusion, safety and cleanliness, and on-time performance top of mind. I'll remind everyone that this transformation work was well underway before the COVID-19 pandemic forced us to think differently. In mid-March of 2020, we went from carrying 1.7 million customers a day to roughly 15% of that, literally overnight. The 1.7 million, incidentally, makes us the 3rd busiest transit system in North America, only behind Mexico City and New York City, where populations exceed 8 million. As well, the TTC accounts for 85% of all transit trips in the Greater Toronto Area, making us a key connector to people to leisure, services, and employment in the GTA. I'm also proud to let you know that in October, we surpassed our 33rd billionth customer carried since 1921. As many of you know, throughout the pandemic, we continue to be there for those who relied on us the most to get them to essential jobs and appointments. We got healthcare workers to hospitals, seniors to doctor's appointments, families to grocery stores and pharmacies. Our success is due in large part to the 16,000 highly skilled and motivated employees who deliver and maintain a safe, reliable, accessible, and punctual service. And I want to thank everyone in this organization for doing their part. I'd also like to take a moment to thank the federal and provincial governments for their financial support of our pandemic-related costs through the Safe Restart Agreement. So far, we've received $1.4 billion for 2020 and 2021, and as we know, there's additional funding for 2022 on the way based on the province's announcement yesterday. And I also look forward to the continuous discussions that we have when it comes to 2023. Now, in addition to keeping our service running during the pandemic, I'd let you know that we also found some significant opportunities. We took advantage of a period of time of low ridership during COVID to make some significant progress in our capital work. We completed 3 10-day closures in March, April, and May of 2021 to conduct essential state of good repair work and asbestos removal. Now, these closures allowed us to eliminate nearly 75 to 100 planned weekend closures that would otherwise have been required over the coming few years. We also demonstrated flexibility in our service delivery to match capacity to demand, and we added information like vehicle occupancy to our website to help customers plan their trips better. Most recently, we activated the automatic train control signaling system across all of Line 1, allowing us to run more safely and run more trains closely together. And we did this with the revised schedule and budget that was provided by the board. This is quickly followed by the implementation of the one-person train operation that we implemented just a few weeks ago. And I'd let you know that we're already seeing some significant benefits from the system that we've put in place. Just last week, we were able to reduce the headways and run 32 trains an hour through Yonge and Bloor Station southbound between the hours of 8 and 9 a.m. in the morning, less than a 2-minute headway. And that's a significant improvement for our customers. Just 5 years ago, we were providing 6 to 8 trains less. So we're seeing the benefits right away from that system. Now, the flexibility we showed during the pandemic continues as we transform to the future. And as the pandemic eases, we're pleased to see more riders returning to transit. And I'd tell you that today, we're at about 70% of pre-pandemic ridership for weekdays and 80% on weekends. So you're seeing more leisure trips over the course of the week as opposed to the commuting to and from work. I'll tell you that we actually began preparing for the expected return of customers last spring. And in addition to improving our service or making the service improvements, we continue to take the pulse of our customers so that we could understand the priorities, their priorities and their concerns for the TTC. So what I'd like to do now, if I may, is I'll introduce Scott Haskell, our Chief Strategy and Customer Officer, and let him tell you a little bit about what we heard, and then he'll introduce Wendy that'll give you a presentation on this. So Scott, if you would.
Thank you very much, Rick, and good morning, Chair and Commissioners. As Rick mentioned, we collect a lot of data about our customers. We collect a lot of data about our ridership. We ask our customers what they think of us. We have changed that data collection during the pandemic. We collect more information now than we ever used to, and we do more with it. We work with it better, and we actually use it to improve the service that we operate and the service that we plan, working with all of our partners at the Commission. Wendy Rauter is the head of our research and analytics department, and Wendy's going to take you through an explanation of where we are with this data and with customer perceptions and where we're going to go with that. So over to you, Wendy.
Thanks, Scott. Next slide, please. Good morning. So a 5-minute version of what we're doing with our data and understanding our customers. How many customers do we have? Let's go to the next slide. One way to look at this is through boardings. Rick mentioned how many passenger trips, 1.7 million per day during the pandemic. This is looking at boardings. It looks at every time a customer has boarded a vehicle. So the numbers are a little bit different. And this chart tracks how our customers have been returning to transit throughout the pandemic, week by week. With each phase of opening, we could see which groups of our customers were beginning to return. Sometimes they even began returning in advance of phase openings. And as Rick mentioned, we're right about 70% of pre-pandemic ridership levels as of last week. In total right now, we're accommodating 2.2 million boardings per weekday. Ridership has recovered a little bit differently by mode. There's been some variation. Bus has been the workhorse throughout the pandemic, recovering quicker than the other modes. And as of last week, bus ridership is at 77% of pre-pandemic levels. Streetcar is at 61, and subway is at 63. Next slide, please. So why do our customers use our service? They use it for work, for health, for education, for recreation, for many of the reasons that Rick was also describing earlier. Prior to the pandemic, our customers boarded our service 3.2 million times per weekday. For the most part, each customer segment has returned proportionately, but with one exception. Office workers were 38% of all boardings prior to the pandemic. They're now 30%. When combined with the current boardings, this is about 500,000 fewer boardings per day from our office worker customers, principally from increases in hybrid and off-site work. Next slide, please. Above and beyond the reasons for their travel, our customers are diverse, and we want to understand their backgrounds and what their individual needs are. 27% of our customers are youth, 8% are seniors, 53% live in apartments, 32% do not own an automobile, 55% may be visible minorities, and about 58% identify as female. On our surface routes, about a quarter of our customer boardings come from households making less than $40,000 a year. And that goes up to 41% for those making under $60,000 a year. These customers are making up a broader proportion of TTC's ridership right now, compared to 2019, as higher income customers are currently riding less frequently. Next slide, please. So as Scott mentioned, we also want to be understanding the pulse of our customers. We want to know not only why are they traveling with us, but how satisfied they are. We have 3 key measures at the TTC that we measure consistently. One is customer satisfaction. The other is Net Promoter Score, which many of you may know from other industries. And the third is the degree to which customers are proud of the TTC and what it means to Toronto. We've been measuring these prior to the pandemic, throughout the pandemic. It's a regular pulse that we look to understand our customer satisfaction. Next slide, please. It's not enough to know how satisfied our customers are, but what is most important to them. To read this, satisfaction scores of each aspect of transit service are plotted vertically, and importance scores are plotted horizontally. As a result, each aspect of customers' recent trips can be distributed in these 4 quadrants. In the bottom right are our key challenge areas. These are the areas of our service that have the highest impact on overall satisfaction and have lower individual satisfaction scores: wait time, safety, and cleanliness. In the top right, aspects that have relatively high impact on satisfaction and also have high individual satisfaction. This include trip length, ride comfort, and trip smoothness. Over on the left are other key drivers as well, but of slightly lower importance to customers. Next slide, please. Why is this important? It's important to align our efforts on the things that matter to customers. One example of how we use this is with service reliability. Now, continual efforts to improve reliability are not new to us, but what is new to us is the volume of data that's now available to us that Rick had mentioned. This is through systems like our Vision system, automatic passenger counters, station Wi-Fi, Presto, others, combined with really robust travel survey data. And here's an illustration of where we're at. 160 buses might seem simple, or nine streetcar routes might sound small. However, to provide service over the course of a month with those routes in a 724 environment takes about 950,000 trips per month. This is the level of detail that we want to understand in terms of our service reliability. As a simple report on those 950,000 trips, we look at how our routes are performing in 5 key buckets. So moving from left to right, we've got on-time performance for 31 routes as of October. These are routes that are performing on time over 90%. Moving to the right, we are continually monitoring the routes that are performing near to on time, not on time, and those that are affected by construction. So we can evaluate where we can improve service reliability for our customers, where most customers are being affected. You can see also from September to October, we've had, as a result of our analytics and our route level analysis, we've been able to see 8 of our routes move from lower levels of on-time performance into that on-time performance. That's where we see 23 routes moving to 31, and additional customers seeing service improvements as a result. So our efforts are to continually increase their service level and move our routes over to the left. And this is a metric that we're tracking throughout the organization. On-time performance is one of the key metrics that you'll see continuing in the CEO report as well. So it's something that's available for continual monitoring through that resource. Next slide, please. Really quick example of the large data of our service reliability through the city in October. As customers return to transit and as mobility changes throughout the city, congestion changes, traffic pattern changes, not only the ridership changes, continually assessing and understanding how our routes perform will be critical. Next slide, please. So leveraging analytics is not the end game. In this case, it's a means to improving service for our customers. Doing so is continually evolving new normal. We have a 13-point action plan for service improvement that are following these themes. A few examples within these themes include continuing to use this broad analytics approach to diagnosing on-time performance, expanding transit signal priority to more than 100 intersections in 2023, the expanded use of rapid bus transit, providing real-time customer information for planned and unplanned delays in construction, and developing and implementing a customer experience action plan to complement TTC's other strategic plans. You'll hear more about these in the coming months. So with that, I'd say thank you, and I will turn it back to Rick.
Okay, thank you very much, Wendy. Thank you, Scott, for that. So as you've heard, there are areas our customers are focused on that we need to improve on, such as punctuality, cleanliness, and safety. They're among them. So what I'd like to do is briefly tell you a little bit about where we're responding. With respect to on-time performance, we've taken steps to address unplanned delays, closures, and diversions on our system that really frustrate our customers. We're doing this by improving service resiliency through a pool of spares, unscheduled, and vehicles across all of our modes. And we do this to help fill the gaps that may occur throughout the course of the day for any reason whatsoever. We've recruited, hired, and trained more frontline employees to ensure that we can meet our customers' needs and deliver the service that we advertise. Now, with respect to cleanliness, in addition to our regular daily cleaning, our Chief of Transportation and Vehicles, Rich Wong, is developing a pilot program so that we can see where we're going to more frequently clean our vehicles during the course of the day while they're out on routes, similar to what we do in the subway, but we're looking even at the streetcars more frequently. And I'll let you know that this past summer, we improved the cleanliness of stations by hiring almost 100 students to conduct a cleaning blitz throughout the stations. Now, with respect to safety and security, we know it's top of mind for our customers as it is for all of us. So we've put additional initiatives in place to make sure that everyone feels secure on our system. Through the station's transformation program, we're installing more cameras and repositioning uniformed staff to better monitor in-station activity and assist customers where needed. We've increased the number of special constables over the past few years and created a community engagement unit to assist people in crisis. And we've entered into a new agreement with the city's Streets to Homes program to enhance those supports. As well, we're reminding our customers about the safety features that we have available to them, such as the Safe TTC app, and we're doing this through an in-station advertising campaign. I'll remind you as well of our safety and reliability of the service is more affordable to our customers as a travel option. With programs like Children 12 and Under, Ride Free, and the Hop On and Hop Off 2-hour transfer, the TTC is a less expensive way than driving, particularly now when you look at gas and parking prices. I'd also remind everyone that we're a cleaner and greener option as well. As most people already know, public transit is good for the environment, and we're doing our part to help reach the city's environmental goals. We have committed to making our fleet entirely zero emissions by 2040 through the purchase of more battery electric buses. And I'm proud to say that we currently have the largest fleet of battery electric buses in North America, and we continue to look for ways to make our operations greener. And I have been challenged on that statement recently, so I'm going to have to do a little bit more diligence and look in the background of who's buying what today. But we will stay ahead, I can assure you. Ultimately, we want people to choose the TTC because it's safe, reliable, affordable, accessible, and a greener choice. I borrow a phrase from one of our past campaigns. The TTC really is the better way to get around this city and this region. But we do recognize we still have some work to do and more to do looking to the future. We know we have lots of challenges coming our way, and we have to prepare for them. And that's why it's important we undertake the long-term planning that we do through initiatives like our capital investment plan, our real estate investment plan, in addition to our annual service plan and our corporate plan. So before I wrap up, what I'd like to do is if I could show a brief video to kind of recap some of the accomplishments that we've had from the past few years. So if we could play this video, please. Thank you for that. I really enjoy seeing that video, and I hope you did as well. You know, it just demonstrates the commitment this organization has to modernizing, or the staff have to modernizing and transforming the organization as we help this city just continue to grow. So in conclusion, Chair, I'll tell everyone that we remain fully committed to delivering the safest and best service we can based on our evolving ridership pattern while ensuring nobody gets left behind. And as we look ahead, I can tell you that we're doing a few things to that regard. We are building back our reliability and improving our on-time performance. We are setting a new corporate and long-term service planning goals. And we continue to find ways to grow our capacity for the future with 60 new streetcars on their way, with improvements to the Yonge and Bloor Station, it's the capital expansion program, and with transit priority initiatives like rapid TO lanes, bus lanes. So as we position ourselves for the future, we want to continue to make sure that we are the mode of transportation people choose, not because they have to, but because they want to. It should also be pleasant and comfortable experience in a place where customers and employees feel safe, welcomed, and where service is reliable. And this is the TTC that I want people to see every day, night and day. So with that, Chair Burnside, that concludes my remarks. I'd say that I and staff are here to answer any questions that the commissioners may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick and Wendy, and everyone that helped put that together. Are there any questions, Councillor Moyes?
Thank you for that report. It was nice to see. I think it's important to always highlight our accomplishments, but equally important to highlight our challenges. You painted a very rosy picture. And, you know, for me who live in the city, you know, who take public transit, I know that there's a perception out there currently that, you know, it's not as safe as it could be and should be. And I wish, you know, you would have highlight that a little bit more in your report. Also, to what I'd like maybe to hear you perhaps comment on is the strategies you're taking to maybe address some of the staff shortages that you have in the system, because I know that not only the TTC but many organizations across our city and our province are going through that right now. And reading through the report over the weekend as well, I know that, you know, you highlighted in here, I believe, you know, you've done a good job in hiring more women in the system. But one of the challenges you face is retention of the women that you hire. For example, just through my own, you know, research, I'm going to call it, some of the reasons that women don't stay on as employees of the TTCs, that the issues around perhaps washrooms for your female, for your women who you hire. Childcare is an issue, for example. And also to, you know, when you are hired on with the TTC, you know, you start off and you get terrible work hours. And again, that is an issue when it comes to people who have children, so they decide to move on as a result. So those are, you know, I mean, I have a lot of other questions, but I'm going to stop there for now as to, you know, perhaps you can comment on some of those things I've mentioned so far.
Sure, through you, Chair. I welcome the opportunity. As for the CEO report, one of the things that we do highlight in there, and as Wendy showed, it's we know we need to be more reliable. It's very clear to us the routes that we're not don't have the reliability, and as we say, we know our customers know it, and that's why we're trying to be transparent, showing all that information, because we have a lot of work to do. And it's nice to have the data, but now it's about correcting it, so our customers actually see and feel the difference in the service. So that's one. As for safety, I'd tell you that I, as well, drove or operated trains, and we're in the union in my first 5 to 10 years in this business. So I very much feel for the operators and frontline employees on a daily basis, and respect that they do on from a safety perspective. I tell you, we work very closely, whether it's with the union or internally, all right, to address the safety features, everything we possibly can with the city, with streets to homes, to make a difference. More recently, we've been working with the union on a new barrier for buses, for instance. And they were actually, we created it with the help of union personnel at the TTC and the shops, the TTC, to build this. And I'll make sure that everybody gets a picture of this, all right? And they actually took it to 2 conventions to showcase it as the way of doing business in the future for the safety of our operators. So we're always doing things to move the needle in that case. Staffing shortages. We have staffing shortages more, I'm going to say, on the side of staff. We've done a good job in this year when it came to operations. And we also have people coming back, so we're going to have, from a staffing and a maintenance standpoint, we do have our challenges at times. People leave for other jobs. As we're hearing in private industry, people are moving along. So we're doing everything possible to kind of educate and bring people along and showcase. And at some point, we can ask Keisha to talk about the number of external communications that we do to let people know about the TTC. You mentioned women and retention. This is the second year in a row that it looks like we've been able to achieve the 40% of women hired for frontline employees. We were 15% women as an organization. And you know, when you look at that, you say that's not statistically possible to have so few women. When in most transit agencies are in the 35 to 40 range, and they've been working on this. So Keisha and the team have been working together, significant outreach. But it's not just hiring women, right? It's what you do to retain them. You're absolutely right, right? And we have peer programs together now where women are joined up with other women so they get a better understanding of the job and they can talk to a peer and have discussions about what they find. Women trainers taking women out to make sure they know where you can go to the bathroom. That's a prime example as we continue to look at other locations where we can make bathrooms available. So that, you know, these are a couple of the notes I took down. If I missed anything, please do it. All the things that you're talking about are top of mind for this organization. Thank you, sir.
I'll stop there for now.
Next member with questions is Commissioner Jagdeo. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Burnside. Rick, awesome presentation. Thank you so much for showing us all the accomplishments we've been able to do over the last several quarters. It's exciting to watch and to be witness to it. I actually have a question for Wendy, and I know it's weird because she's right behind me, and I still need to use the mic. But I wanted to talk about the metric called Pride, which I thought was a fascinating metric, by the way, for a couple of reasons. Pride can be seen as a leading metric that has some very important lagging ones like revenue and how customer acquisition is going to be impacted through Pride. And when I was looking at the chart, we seem to have a negative relationship over time. And I know that that's measured in months, and the data is all weird and it's not going to be consistent. But I was curious to understand how you are measuring Pride, if that relates to the 2x2 that was shared right after. And what are some of the key insights on why our Pride is going down? Because I think as we start to think about bringing more users to the TTC, getting that Pride piece right is going to be so critical. So where are some of those big insights?
Through the chair?
I guess.
Through the chair. Thank you for the question. We've principally been using those 3 metrics in concert, so we can triangulate, not just look to one, but see how they're complementing each other and whether there's different interpretations we can take. And as we go forward, we're looking to drill into each one further. So what you saw in the quadrants was a drill down into customer satisfaction specifically. We don't have that connectivity yet to what makes our customers proud. What we do know about our customers and those that are proud is that there's a higher degree of being proud amongst those that are regular transit users. There's a higher degree of Net Promoter Score amongst those that are regular transit users. There's a higher degree of customer satisfaction amongst our infrequent and non-peak riders. So some differences in how these metrics are showing up amongst our different customer groups. So these are areas that we're going to be exploring further.
Thank you.
Next with questions is Commissioner Holiday.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, to the CEO. Thank you for the presentation. I've always been fascinated by clocks and watches. You know, the hands move around the dial predictably every day, right? You know, twice in a 24-hour cycle and 24 movements of the other hand. And for decades, our city has followed this metronome, this pace. And I would imagine this transit agencies and ones across North America geared themselves to that, right? Workers would flow, shops would open, people would go to school. But 2 years ago, the springs fell out of the watch and the gears came out, and COVID changed that pace of the city. So and there's a question in here, I promise. But I would imagine that transit agencies all over have struggled now to readjust and recalibrate. You know, what was the morning rush is no longer, it's different. And what was the evening rush is no longer, it's different. And it's on the peaks and valleys have been shaved. Where do you see the challenges, especially to us, the board, the commission, of recalibrating for the new way of life forward and those new ebbs and flows in the city? Where are we going to be challenged? I know Commissioner Moyes asked about, you know, human resources, and you know, I get it. You know, when people are going home or spending leisure time and moving, like, you know, they don't want to be at work. They want to be enjoying that too. So, you know, you got to attract talent. But where do you see those pressures and those challenges coming to us? And I really just asked this because I want to think about the term ahead.
Through you, Chair. You know, we've often talked through COVID about what the new normal is going to be. And we were always talking about, you know, around the COVID pandemic. And now it's really come out of this is the work from home policies that are impacting us more than ever, right? When Wendy's talking about doing some analytics and looking, and we know that people aren't going to work 5 days a week anymore. They're working from home, and it's being shown in our percentages of ridership. I think our numbers like 1.7 days a week is the average when you start looking at that. Then that impacts our financial capabilities of revenue collection. And one of the things that we consistently messaged, I'm going to say in the last 5 to 6 years, you know, when we always talked about the fare box recovery at the TTC being so high, well, you start looking at, is that a good thing? You know, when the pandemic hit, it put extra pressure on the city and on the province and the federal government about looking at where do we invest in public transit. We have some pressures there, obviously. We talk about matching capacity to demand as we're looking at about less than 70% of overall ridership having returned. Long-term pressures for the TTC, the state of good repair and the capital budget. We were very fortunate just a few years ago when the first capital investment plan was presented that the city within 10 months reacted and gave us $4.7 additional billion from the city building fund to help us get there. But as you'll see from the capital investment plan, the substantial, I think we're $13 billion short in the existing 10 years that we're in. We have an old system that needs to be upgraded. There's a lot of things we'll be updating you as a board and the public as we work forward and continue. That's why I mentioned about state of good repair in the presentation, asbestos removal and shutting down for 10 days at a time to do that. We have a lot of work ahead of us. I talk positive about what we've done, but we don't shy away from the challenge that we have ahead. I hope that answered your question, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to the CEO.
Our next speaker is Vice Chair De Laurentiis. Go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to start with a comment to say that the level of data that Wendy has presented is really quite exciting. I think it allows us as a board to really understand what we are managing, the incredible value that the TTC brings to the province. So that takes me to the question I want to ask, which is among the metrics that we have, can we include the metric of the economic benefit that TTC brings to the city? Because I think, you know, some of the challenges that our CEO has outlined for us, that, you know, the question of seeking financing to help us continue to operate, I think would be much more, you know, easily, the arguments would be better understood if we could point to the fact that the TTC is in fact a huge contributor to the economy of the province, and therefore when we look at the amount of money that needs to be invested, it should always be characterized as an investment that will enhance the economic value rather than a cost, because often it is framed as a cost. So question, Wendy, is can we and I know it will require a fair amount of analysis, but can we in future data presentations that you give us include the metric of the economic development value that the TTC makes, not just to the city, but more broadly, because it facilitates movement, it facilitates interaction, and it goes to all kinds of issues, improving the environmental situation in the province. But so let me put that to you. Thank you.
So through the chair, Commissioner, it's Josie Levita. I'll answer that question. Yes, we can. In fact, as we speak, we're doing work together in partnership with the University of Toronto, where we're actually assessing and looking at the economic benefit of the investments being made in the TTC. And it's also not just from the kind of service provision, but also from the capital investments and what that does to us. And so we're doing some work to understand the full economic impact of the TTC at the local level, at the regional level, provincial and national level. So yes.
Thank you. I just want to underline, Chair, that this is it's a data point that I think will serve us well in making our case, and as we seek support from the various levels of government, because everybody benefits, and it's without a really well running transit, things would be very different.
Thank you. Commissioner Osborne.
Thanks. Thank you for the report. And I noticed that, unfortunately, nothing has changed on the main irritant for our customers, which seems to be the on-time performance. And this is on the surface routes. And I'm wondering what the relationship is between what we're doing with the scheduling and the gridlock on our city streets, the extent to which we're trying to schedule around it, which would seem to be a very difficult thing to do, in fairness to you, and the ways that we are maybe working with the city, because this is obviously a problem that affects everybody, air quality, people in cars, people in buses, and it would seem to me that as long as gridlock is the way it is, which anecdotally seems to be actually getting worse, that we will have our hands full trying to get on-time performance into something that you would consider to be reasonably reliable, even with, let's call it a low bar. And so I'm just wondering how you're coping in this environment.
Through you, Chair, I'll take that, and if Wendy or someone wants to jump in, by all means. I'd let you know that we work on a monthly basis with our partners at the city and the province, whether it's water, hydro, roads, Metrolinks, right? As you look at the growth and expansion that's happening in the city with public transit, Fort Monaco even attends a monthly meeting with City Hall elected officials to help us coordinate all of that work. We identified purposely in the report that was shown in the presentation, I believe it was 41 routes that are impacted by construction. We're purposely taking those out of the metrics because you're absolutely right? It's been impossible for us to try to manage that, and we're doing that because we know that next year will be more challenges. But we do know that the routes that we know that we have poor on-time performance, our customers know it, we're identifying that now so we can improve everything we can left of construction. And then with construction, what we're talking about with Natalie and corporate affairs and the others is we have to do a better job managing those routes and communicating to the customers on those routes and look at how we can manage differently. And that's why we talk about having runners directed buses available to stick in any gaps and keeping the streetcars moving where we can. So we're going to be doing more communicating and highlighting of what we know about those, and then seeing what we can do differently with Fort and Rich, working with the city. And, do we have to bus more routes because of the traffic and some of the streetcar routes? We just can't do it anymore. So we're doing all those assessments now.
And I would add that, yes, we will have the direct impact of construction on certain routes, but then if they're digging up streets or, having to do whatever it is, building construction or whatever, the whipsaw through the rest of the streets, the parallel routes and so on, obviously it's not just the route on that road, it's the routes running parallel to those roads because the cars that used to be able to travel on in a given place no longer can. And so there's that, as well as, I don't know what's happened with the numbers lately, but it did look like a lot more people were unfortunately turning to cars post-pandemic. That's just pure volume questions that, that will affect all of our routes, presumably, or most of them anyway.
Scott, jump.
Through the chair, all very good points, Commissioner. And in fact, as we've alluded to, we are embarking on a pretty major service improvements package of changes to the way we deliver the service, to the way we schedule the service, looking at things, not just the schedules and the running time, but even how the terminals operate, what other measures we need to work with the city, how can we expand transit signal priority. So it's a pretty comprehensive plan to look at all these things. Construction is very much at the heart of it. As Rick said, we need to coordinate as best we can with the city. We need to focus on the routes that are affected, but also the routes in the nearby areas. So we're doing more now with that than we have ever done before, and we have the data to do it, and we have now the process and the people behind it. It's working quite cooperatively, and we are starting to see in recent weeks especially some very good results from that. So we are going to continue on with that.
Thank you. Do we have any speakers? Seeing none, can I have a motion to receive the CEO's report and presentation? Commissioner Osborne, seconded by Commissioner Jagdeo. I know your first name, I can't read the second. I'm a first name guy, that's my problem. Thanks. Thank you. All those in favor? Carried, thank you. We'll now move on to item number 3. Each year, the TTC recognizes employees who have completed 40, 45, and 50 years of service to the TTC. This year, the TTC celebrates 11 employees who have achieved this, and it really is an exceptional milestone. The board is grateful for the opportunity to acknowledge this group for their many years of dedicated service and making the TTC a transit system that makes Toronto proud. We have 6 of these exceptional employees with us today, and I'd like to ask that the CEO join me in the center of the room to present long service certificates and to take a photo.
Thank you. As I call your name, please join Chair Burnside and CEO Leary to receive your certificate, starting with our 40-year recipients, beginning with Antonio Spencieri, start date of February 1st, 1982, and he is a foreperson in signals in the signal, electrical, and communications area. Congratulations. Our next recipient is Delari Sarju, start date of July 14th, 1982, and Delari is a specification coordinator in engineering. Congratulations. Our next 40-year recipient is Sandy Surlis. Start date of October 4th, 1982. Sandy is a filming, tours, and events specialist in marketing and customer experience. Next, we'll move on to acknowledge our 45-year recipients, beginning with Richard Phillips, start date of October 4th, 1977. Richard is an electrician's assistant in signal, electrical, and communications. Congratulations. Our next 45-year recipient is Aslam Qureshi, start date of May 11th, 1977. And Aslam is a coach technician in bus maintenance and shops. And finally, we will acknowledge our sole 50-year recipient, Barry Allen, an operator in bus transportation from Wilson Division. Again, 50 years for Mr. Allen. Please come and receive your certificate. And different question. Excuse me, everyone. Sorry. Can I have everyone's attention? Board members, before we conclude this item, can I have everyone join our long service recipients in this center for a photo? All of our members and the recipients, please.
Thank you, everybody. We'd like to get on with the party. I got this. What? It looks so nice. It's garbage. Who doesn't want to do that, right? I would like to move on, if you don't mind. I would also like to congratulate and thank the employees who unfortunately could not attend today, but who attained 40-year milestones in 2022. Fulvio Fanti, a manager estimating in the project management office. Amin Juma, a station collector in the stations department. Stanley Connick, an operator in bus transportation, Mount Dennis division. Rodney McGuigan, a track mechanic in subway infrastructure. And lastly, Stephanie Kufis McMillan, manager claims in legal. So thank you. Item number 4. Our next item is approved minutes of the Advisory Committee on Accessible Transit, general monthly meetings for June 30th, July 28th, August 25th, September 29th, and October 27, 22. And before we receive our presentation, I would like to acknowledge the impressive amount of work that ACAT does, as it evidenced by the minutes before us today. With that, I will turn the mic over to, I believe it's Angela. Is it Angela? Debbie Gillespie.
Thank you very much, Councillor Burnside. The first thing I'd like to do, with the utmost respect for all of the staff at the TTC and the board, through the chair, I'd like to mention that the video that was shown as part of the CEO's report, I honestly, as a blind person, have no idea what was in that video, and I do look forward to a synopsis of it. And as is my usual way, I will provide a quick solution for this not to happen in future. A simple solution would have been to briefly just mention what the video is going to be talking about or showing before you play it. It's not just for myself. We don't know, to be honest, who in the general public is watching via YouTube. So it just means that we need to always keep accessibility top of mind at all meetings as well as on the transit system. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will now proceed with my report. First, I'd like to extend a warm welcome to the newly elected members of the TTC board, and a special congratulations to Councillor Burnside and Commissioner De Laurentiis. As many of you are on the board who may not have been previously, I'll begin by providing a brief overview of the Advisory Committee on Accessible Transit, known as ACAT, to assist you in familiarizing yourself with the work that ACAT does. ACAT's role is to advise the TTC board and staff on current best practice in providing accessible transit, focusing on seniors and people with disabilities. There are 15 members on ACAT, 8 of whom are people with disabilities or have lived experience, a minimum of 2 seniors, and 5 others who have demonstrated a knowledge of accessible transit or are advocates for people with disabilities. This past year, 2022, was the 30th anniversary of ACAT, and an accomplishments of its its milestones in the past 30 years were featured on all forum aspects of their platforms, as well as social media. ACAT has 4 main subcommittees where the majority of the work is done. Also, many site visits take place, and these go a long way to assisting staff and the board to formulate policy as we move forward with accessible transit. The subcommittees are communications, design review, service planning, and Wheel-Trans. But in the interest of time, I will only provide one highlight. I won't go over the last 4 sets of minutes, I promise, for the 4 subcommittees. And as this is the year-end report, this is normally what would happen at a case like this. The Communications Subcommittee worked extensively on the closures and diversions stop pole card information, removing much of the transit jargon that may be unfamiliar to riders and replacing it with plain language and clear, concise directions for riders in the field who may suddenly discover that the route they take is no longer available. Design Review Subcommittee has been working diligently with the transit staff to ensure accessible stops on the SRT routes and also has visited 2 stations on the LRT Line 5 to evaluate those for accessibility and wayfinding. Service Planning reviewed the 2023 Annual Service Plan and provided valuable input to staff on policies to best support people with disabilities and seniors while riding the system, and gave valuable input into the TTC forum preparation. The public forum I'm referring to. Sorry about that. Wheel-Trans has been conducting detailed work on all of the stops and landmarks throughout the city, ensuring that the street addresses match and are accurately reflected in the TTC Wheel-Trans booking system, with convenience and safety top of mind for all transit users. In closing, I'd like to express my appreciation to the retiring 2022 ACAT members and warmly welcome the 2023 new members. This concludes my ACAT report, and thank you very much to the board.
Thank you, Chair Gillespie. Do we have any questions? Any speakers? Seeing none, can I have a motion to receive? You. Commissioner Osborne, seconded by Commissioner Moyes. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Chair Gillespie. Moving on to item number 5, we have a number of retiring ACAT members, actually, including Debbie Gillespie, who we just heard from. The board would like to formally acknowledge the many accomplishments and obviously the great efforts of this year's retiring ACAT members. And I will just mention them as Carmen Galvin, of course, Debbie Gillespie, Sean Hollingsworth, Angela Marley, and Lauren Foote. I actually did have the opportunity to read your bios, and they're very impressive. And you know, your experience and, of course, your achievements in working with the TTC. You have each done an admirable job at representing the needs and concerns of persons with disabilities and seniors who require accessible public transit in the City of Toronto. Thank you. In recognition of your contribution and dedication, you will each receive an appreciation plaque. I'd like to ask the CEO to join me. I think Angela Marley is here. And if you could come forward, are we going to go over there, or we'll go over to Angela? Okay, thank you.
We'll have the rest of our board members join Angela for a photo as well.
Thank you. Can we continue on with item number 5, please? Thank you, everybody. I'd also like to acknowledge Lauren Foote. She's in the meeting. Maybe you could just wave to us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And of course, thank you. Thanks to all of our retiring members. We now have the matter of appointing new members before us. Do any board members have questions on this item, or would you like to speak?
I have a comment, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, just before we leave our departing committee, I would just say that, we often the items that they bring forward as being beneficial to those with particularly accessible issues in using transit, but really they really provide, and what they do, their recommendations and their ideas really improve the transit service for all of us. So we owe them a great debt of gratitude, all of us do, because as I say, just your recommendations make all of our lives, even those of us who are so-called fit, it improves our usage of and our enjoyment of transit. So thank you to all of you from that perspective.
Seeing there are no further speakers, can I have a motion to adopt the report? Councillor Moyes, seconded by Commissioner Mantis. Thank you. All those in favor? Carried. I'd like to congratulate all of the new ACAT members beginning on January 1st, 2023. May Hung, Betty Rivington Law, Frank Lockhart, Maria Marin, Lavarnan Mayavarnan, and Rob Lackey. I'd also like to acknowledge the new ACAT pool members, Nicholas Patterson, Jason Osborne, Tammy Adams, and Valdo Tamark. Congratulations, everybody. Thank you. We are now on to item 6, appointments to the TTC, the various TTC committees, and we now have someone to depute on this item. Cameron McLeod. Thank you, Cameron. Yeah. Please go ahead. You have 5 minutes.
Hello, commissioners and staff. My name is Cameron McLeod. I'm the executive director of Code Red TO. This chair is very short. At the start of this new term, I have 3 points that I'd like to make with you related to committee membership and the broader subject of your role in TTC governance. But first, just a quick intro for those that we haven't met yet. Code Red TO is a purposefully nonpartisan transit advocacy and education organization. We're not lobbyists. We focus actually on listening to council and the public and all of their concerns so we can build better and more informative resources for you and for the public. In 2015, we met with 16 members of council. We've deputed at Queen's Park, met with a previous premier, Minister of Transportation, Chief Planner, TTC, Chief Customer Officer. We've partnered with dozens of groups, including Civic Action, Toronto Region Board of Trade. We've also presented at public meetings with members of council, with Metrolinx, and with the TTC. We also release independent research, such as this one from 2018. I brought copies for everybody if you'd like to take a look. It has lots of pretty pictures. I promise there's no boring walls of text or anything like that. Commissioners, membership in the Audit and Risk Committee or the TTC Metrolinx joint committees will require careful and diligent work. I want to share some areas of concern that you may encounter. My first point is actually about summaries and averages and how reporting can actually hide risks. In that great CEO's report, we see things like buses were on time only 79% of the time in October, or streetcars only 58% of the time. But those are averages, right? So that means that some routes had much worse performance. It also states that 1.9% of all trips didn't happen, 1 in 50. That feels like a small number, but this would be equivalent to turning off the entire TTC for 7 days over the course of a year. So if we combine these absences with other challenges in line management, like vehicles bunching together, riders could easily be stuck waiting 30 to 40 minutes for a route that's listed inside that 10-minute network, right? We always need to focus on the rider experience, as Wendy was talking about, mentioned earlier. All this to say, by joining these committees, I encourage you to dig into the details of topics and find root causes. If you don't know what's behind the chart, if you don't know what's behind that summary, you're missing out, and you're missing out on some of those risks. Similarly, 2022 revenue is actually not following the projected pattern, as we saw in the report. 2023 is going to be a year of significant budgetary challenges, as I'm sure everyone is aware. You're going to struggle to protect our city's economic mobility sometimes. The Eglinton Crosstown was supposed to open this year. I mean, it was supposed to open several years now in a row this year, but obviously it hasn't. Line 5 not opening, being late, that's actually saving the TTC operations funding, right? But shifts like that are a huge risk to how the agency operates. It's something to really be clear on. The TTC spends over $1.4 billion a year on operations and even more on capital. But during the previous term, for those of you who are new, the TTC Budget Committee was actually dissolved. So that's a bit of a concern. It's important for all of you to, on these committees, pay close attention to this stuff. It's important for our city that you understand these numbers and to address those future risks. That's what risk is about. My second point is on governance. Okay, I'll speed up a bit. Almost done. The final report of the Ottawa LRT public inquiry called out significant gaps on governance on that project. Both city staff and the mayor were actually identified as having directly misled council. I bring this up because the same conditions identified in Ottawa are common here in Toronto. So monitoring how Metrolinx impacts the TTC, that's a big important role as well. Councillor Holiday, when you and I met in 2015, we spoke about SmartTrack, which was then supposed to open in 2021. A new fleet of trains, new tracks, a tunnel, 22 stations. Of course, since then it's shrunk to just 5 new GO platforms, which won't open until at least 2026, last we heard, but it's still costing over $1.4 billion. So a TTC board that's informed and diligent, and a leadership team that's careful and detailed is required to ensure we avoid this sort of project evaporation in the future. Councillor Burnside, when you and I met, you expressed strong concerns about how politicized transit had become and the lack of predictable operations funding for the TTC and the risks that those pose. I kind of have some bad news for you about the last 8 years. It hasn't really gotten better. As chair, it's going to be vital to guide the board and all of council on how to use this strong tool for Toronto's continued recovery and growth. Too often, we all get trapped in misunderstandings of how transit is funded, how transit should be better prioritized to move more people around to schools and jobs. My last point is on staff turnover. A strong team is key to managing risk. I see a strong team here, which is awesome. However, from 2019 to today, the TTC lost almost half its leadership team. 25 names on the public-facing org chart have changed. That's double the churn rate of U.S. private sector executives. So one thing is, pay attention to that stuff too. Okay, this loss of institutional knowledge is a significant risk to decision quality. In closing, I ask that you not take the approach of previous boards and look only for good news messages. Okay, ask the hard questions. The TTC can't afford spending 4 years relearning previous lessons or repeating avoidable mistakes. Thanks so much for your time, and I'll just leave these over at the side.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? No. Thank you. Thank you, Cameron. Earlier today, you each received correspondence on this item recommending appointees to the Audit and Risk Management Committee and the TTC Presto Metrolinx Joint Advisory Group, which is also actually being posted online. Are there any questions on this item? No. Do we have any speakers? Seeing no speakers, I'm going to move that the members named in the correspondence be appointed to the Audit and Risk Management Committee and the TTC Metrolinx Presto Joint Advisory Group. The clerk has posted the recommendations for the board and members of the public. Is there a seconder for this motion? Commissioner Moyes, thank you. All those in favor? Carries, thank you. Can I have a motion to adopt the balance of the item being recommendation 3 to approve the updated terms of reference for the Human Resources Committee, which is attached as Appendix 1 to this report?
Moved.
Who was that? Thank you, Commissioner Lalonde. Seconded. Thank you, Commissioner Osborne. All those in favor? That carries. Thank you. Item number 8, we are now on the delegation of authority exercised during the election process. No? Got a little bit ahead of myself. We'll now on item number 7, the schedule of meetings for 2023. Commissioner Jagdeo, you held this?
Yeah, I did. Very, very briefly, maybe I can take this offline, but if it's possible for us to move the September 15th and November 17th meeting of the Audit and Risk Management Committee, that'd be terrific. Fridays generally are very difficult.
Through the chair, I will look at the schedule and we will work with the committee to ensure that the dates, we have quorum for those.
Thank you with
Absolutely.
very much grace.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now we can move on. Yeah. Can we have a motion to approve the dates? Thank you, Commissioner Jagdeo, seconder. Councillor Mantis, maybe? Oh, thank you. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. That was it? So where are we? Oh. That concludes our inaugural meeting of this term. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Commissioner Holiday, seconded by Commissioner Jagdeo. Thank you. All those in favor? That carries. Thanks, everybody.